Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the 2015 year-end summit and send-off to close off this fellowship class. I'm kind of 80% done with the program for orientation for the incoming class, and it's kind of weird to reminisce about your orientation at this event as I get ready for the next class that's coming in, but it's hard to believe that a year has flown by us. It's been a great pleasure to interact with so many of you through the affinity groups and the professional development events. So I hope you feel like you've had a productive year as well and have already started thinking about your next steps, whether you're staying with another year of the fellowship program or already have your sights on a new job or are still figuring out what your next adventure is going to be. Today is really meant to be a day of reflection. You're going to hear a lot from your colleagues, both through poster sessions and then two really exciting Pechacucha style 10 by 20 sessions this afternoon. So it'll give you a good chance to see what some of your colleagues were up to. But it's been a good year, and I think you'll see that today. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with the official part of the program by inviting Cynthia Robinson, the director of the Science and Technology Fellowship Program for AAAS, to come up on stage. So thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, everyone. And before I launch into my remarks, we have a special project going on, an experiment today that we are hoping you are all going to participate in. And I'd like Barry Williams, my colleague on our outreach engagements and online systems team, to tell you about it.
Good morning, everybody. This is nice. I feel like a teacher now. So as Cynthia mentioned, we're doing a special project today as part of your reflection on this year and part of looking forward for the next fellows. This is going to be a photo project where you have a chance to write your own message, reflecting on your year, saying what you contributed to policy, or providing a message for future fellows. We also have some canned responses for you, too, if you're not feeling that creative today but still want to take a photo. So we'll be upstairs during all of the breaks. We need 15 brave souls during the first break. So if you feel it in you, you feel ready to take some photos, please join me upstairs and we'll be able to start the project. I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have those testimonials because, in fact, one of the things we're going to be doing with them is presenting a slideshow to the incoming class during orientation. So we'd love to be able to have your messages and words of wisdom and experience to share with them. So I want to dive right in and just say, first of all, can you believe that photo was taken nearly 12 months ago? I don't know about for all of you, but certainly for the S&T Policy Fellowship staff, the year has really flown. And I hope that on balance, that you've found it to be a very, very valuable experience. And at this point, I imagine you're probably focusing on your immediate, next steps as the fellowship year winds down. And typically for me each year, I really don't think of this point in the fellowship experience as actually an ending, but in fact, really a beginning of you actively applying the knowledge and taking advantage of the contacts that you made this year and applying them to whatever is going to come next. And the Alumni Network that you are about to enter really bears out that some amazing things can happen that you might not expect. And of course you're probably thinking, yeah, that's great. I'm part of a wonderful network here, and hopefully you've had a chance to, at least at some point, interact with most of the people in this large class. Although every year I find out that folks who are here today meet colleagues that they hadn't even met during orientation. So that's one of the reasons we have this year-end summit to reconnect and still continue the connections in the current class, but also to launch that again as you're going into alumni and what comes afterwards. 10 years ago, as every year, I just lost the photo that I wanted there. I'm going to try that back again. Anyway, 10 years ago, as every year, there are fellows before you who are very excited about what's next, maybe at this point also feeling a little bit anxious about the next stage in their career. And most, in fact, never imagine where the fellowship experience might lead. And one example of that, I don't know if you were able to see the little photo that just popped up a moment ago, but is, try this again, is DJ Patil. Now, of course, he, like I hope you are feeling, was anticipating some exciting things in the coming year and beyond. And like DJ, you have taken advantage of this year to attend conferences, networking lunches, Hill briefings, professional development activities, affinity group events, happy hours, of course. But how does that all really manifest in our categorizing you as policy-savvy scientists and engineers? Well, the first step, definitely, for that to happen and fully blossom is for you to stay engaged. And ultimately, certainly, DJ is an example that ongoing engagement at the intersection of science and policy and continuing to cultivate that network that started in his fellowship year, his willingness to apply the skills that he gained in his fellowship in new settings and in very different ways, led him to his current appointment just this year as the first chief data scientist at the White House, exactly a decade after completing his fellowship. So like DJ and, again, many other alumni, we want you also to be staying connected and engaged long into the future. Truly, our philosophy is once a fellow, always a fellow. So watch out. We'll be tracking you for the long term. But I think that's all going to be to your benefit. One of the things that's really valuable to us, and I really want to stress, is that staying connected and keeping us informed of your activities. We, of course, want to know about your future jobs, the projects that you're engaged in, the achievements. We want to be able to share those within the network and well beyond. We love hearing about when you are the subject of media coverage. Hopefully it's all positive. When you get products or publications published. We like to feature those on the websites, do news announcements about them. The Fellowship Focus e-newsletter, as you know, our Facebook and LinkedIn pages, our Twitter feeds. We need to keep Kat happy with lots of new and interesting information to be sending out, ideally on a daily basis. We also critically need that information to keep our current funders and our host offices excited and committed. That kind of information and hearing the feedback of the contributions and the opportunities they gave you encourages them to continue hosting fellows, to continue supporting the fellowship in a variety of different ways. We also share that information, of course, with our board members, our other sponsors, and again, hearing the longer-term outcomes and activities of fellows is really what excites them to continue that support and collaboration on a long-term basis. But I think another thing that's really important about making sure that you're sharing that information with us so that we can share it with the broader network is that it helps raise the profile of this program, which means it helps raise your profile and continues to expand your circles of influence as individual fellows, but also as a body of alumni. So please do keep in contact with the fellowship office. Of course, we also need your contact information to keep you updated about what's happening with changes in the program. You are the first class that we've had a brand new judicial fellowship program in and the brand new big data and analytics fellowship program. So there are evolutions happening throughout the lifetime of this program. It is clearly not static. And we want to make sure that you keep engaged and you're informed of that evolution and the activities and exciting things that are happening for the program. We also want to, of course, make sure that you're receiving the newsletters, updates, invitation to alumni events, both in DC and around the country, as we're starting to do those in different regions across the US. And who knows, if there are large groups of you that ended up in other countries, maybe there too. So it's really critical from that perspective to keep your profile updated, especially in Fellows Central. Obviously that we have the LinkedIn site, as you know, Facebook and Twitter. And I also want to mention Trellis. You will be hearing more about that, but that's a new online communication and collaboration platform that AAAS is developing, not just for our program, although we're some of the beta testers of it through the affinity groups, But keep an eye out for that. Again, if we have your updated contact information and you're active on the alumni listservs, you'll be able to hear about that rollout, and we'll be sending you information so you can be actively engaged on that online network as well. So obviously, continuing to network, as we told you from the very first day of orientation, is something that we think is critical. The listservs and then soon Trellis will be an opportunity and a place for you to be able to share resources, share with each other about jobs, conferences and events that you might be running or others in your network are running that you want to make sure get widely promoted. Blogging and exchanging ideas through Sci on the Fly. That initiative is now 2 years old, and we're really excited about that. It has had some great outputs. We continue to promote it and would like many more of you. Thank you to those of you already engaged in that, but we'd love to have more of you engaged as you go forward into your careers. And of course, there'll be lots of opportunities to connect with each other. We hope you'll keep doing that. The AAAS annual meeting, alumni events, and of course, I want to encourage you to be, obviously for those of you sponsored by other societies and your own professional societies, in addition to your connections with AAAS, are critical and really important to us. So all of those things that I've mentioned about keeping in contact, I apply not only to AAAS, but to your sponsoring societies as well. And really, again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities to expand your influence independently, again, as an alumni body, but also to help us as we expand the activities that we do. Not necessarily that AAAS is running, but opportunities for scientists and engineers around the world to have the kinds of experiences that you have had. One of our fellows, I don't have a pointer, but let's see, what you're facing, front row, second person over from the right is Teresa Leonardo, who was a fellow at USAID. She is now the regional S&T manager for USAID operating out of Bangkok, and it was she and a mentor who had been at the EPA who helped develop the idea for the new ASEAN Fellowship Program, which you've heard about throughout the year. They've just inaugurated their second cohort of fellows, which is very exciting, secured funding for another 5 years for that program to try to move on a sustainable path. And some of you may be aware that the Moore Foundation has also funded AAAS to engage in a 2-year landscape analysis and feasibility study to be thinking about other ways to engage scientists and engineers specifically as individuals with policymakers and the policy process internationally. So we're really excited about that. And you all can help us make that a vibrant and active project. Outreach and recruitment, of course, is critical. Our feedback that we get every year from the online application system tells us that current and alumni fellows are the best ambassadors for the program. How many of you are here because you talked with a current or alumni fellow and they encourage you to apply? Okay, so a lot of hands. So you know how critical that is. So we are counting on you to help pay that forward and keep helping us to recruit folks. Right now, I'll share with you a little bit later the stats on the incoming class that will be starting in September. But as you know, we are recruiting for the class that will start in September 2016. And always we're doing pipeline recruiting and outreach throughout the year, and that helps us to be developing hopefully huge pools of very highly qualified candidates every year who we might bring in as fellows. So we ask that you help us promoting the recruitment and outreach messages. Salaha has been sending those out, so please take advantage of those. And if you have Twitter or your own Facebooks or LinkedIns, please help us promote them that way. And talk about your fellowship experience. That's really critical. We definitely take advantage of you even, as current fellows, we have done that at the AAAS annual meeting with outreach booths, but we do outreach all around the country at different conferences, probably some of your own professional conferences, and would love to have you engaged there. We have a lot of fellows that end up going back to their alma maters and doing presentations or meeting people and discussing possible sponsorships for fellowships, organizing conference sessions, and we are very happy. Barry and Salaha are often sending out packets right to your hotel room, wherever you are, getting engaged and doing outreach so that you can share information about the program. And another thing that I think is really critical is to make sure that you are, throughout your career, I hope, promoting yourself as an alum of this program. We have often heard from individuals who apply that they found out about this fellowship because they went to an event and in a written bio saw that this person, whoever was speaking, mentioned that they had a S&T policy fellowship, or they saw it on LinkedIn in someone's bio. And I know you have titles in your offices that are often not S&T policy fellows, especially those of you at the State Department and some of those other places. Great to put that in title on LinkedIn, but please, in the little bio description, mention that you were engaged in as S&T policy fellows, because that really helps us to do that outreach. And again, it also helps you to do the networking. And we often, as you know, take advantage of alumni fellows as speakers in a variety of ways, especially as fellows who move on and into the transformations in their career paths, are excellent resources. You had the opportunity to take advantage of that and hear from alumni who participated in orientation, lots of the different professional development sessions, the career summit that we had, and also special events that we have at AAAS and again around the world, in fact. And so we do want to be able to take advantage of that and tap you for some of those things as you move on. And one of the ways that we do that to find the right speakers and contact you again is through Fellows Central. So one more plug for keeping that information updated there, because that's really essential to help us out. And speaking of alumni speakers, it's right now my pleasure to introduce Alumni Fellow Maria Freire, who is our first keynote for today. And Maria was a fellow back in, she was a congressional fellow, 84 to 86, in Rep. Norman Minetta's office, and then also followed on in the office of Senator Rockefeller, sponsored by the Biophysical Society. And Maria has really been at the forefront of problem solving to combat disease and address human health issues, particularly emphasizing new discoveries and technology transfer for public benefit. You can see from the brief bio that you have in your program that she's been engaged across numerous sectors throughout her decades-long career, from academia to government, nonprofits, and throughout all of those positions has also had significant interaction with industry stakeholders. And that broad experience and exposure and really a tale of a vibrant career path is what made me feel like Maria was just really an ideal alumna to invite to speak today at this year-end summit. So I've asked her to share in an informal way about her career, her perspectives on how her fellowships on the Hill shaped the paths that she's pursued, her views on how important it is to remain engaged as a policy-savvy scientist or engineer, and also some advice on how to do that. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Maria Freire.